on their supper as the twilight slowly gives way to the night. We're standing here together, loving this California weather, and everything around me just feels right. I want to feel you near me, and words right now would fail me. I just can't think of anything to say. I'll just put away old sorrows, not think about tomorrow. Thank God for how He blessed us all today. I thank God for the little things, the normal happy little things, the simple joys we're given every day. I thank God for the little things, the normal happy little things, loving friends and family, and Him to light the way.
Well, howdy folks. It's New Year's Day 2023, and it's been a rainy, nasty one, so had a little bit of cleanup to do in the pony stall. And next is the important part, because even a highly sophisticated city kind of guy like me that lives in the urban wilds of Southern California knows that if you want to have even a decent shot at good luck in the next year, there's things you just have to do. Now, I know some people, I'm one of them, going to church is a nice one, saying your prayers at night, that helps too, but if you really want good luck, there's really only one way to secure it, and that's with what you eat on New Year's Day. And today I'm going to make black-eyed peas and cornbread and some mustard greens, because, well, it's science. Just go with it. It's science. It's where good luck comes from. As you can see, we've had a pretty rainy December here in Southern California. If you look, you can see the pony stall is just a mess of mud, except for the area underneath the overhang that I just put the fresh shavings down, so she'll sleep nice and warm tonight. See, the backyard is just a mess of mud. But on the good side, if you look, all that greenery that's not usually here yet is grown up really good. And if you take a really close look at some of that greenery, you will find that it is, yes sir, that's mustard greens. It just grows wild. I don't know, from what I understand, everyone treats it just like a weed. And later on in the spring, once it goes to flower and the seed pods come out and stuff, it's just too punky to eat. But right now they're young and they're good, so I'm going to pick a mess of them to bring inside, and then I'll show you how we're going to cook them up. I learned to make greens from a lady we used to know from Kenya. It's a very simple recipe, and it works really good on collards, mustard greens, even kale and cabbage.
Driving through the farmland in the north of San Joaquin, that old highway lonesome was gnawing hard on me. I hit the north side of Stockton with no plans to go. I saw neon light shine down on 8 Mile Road. I saw neon lights shining and calling to me, inviting me to places where I shouldn't ought to be. I had a woman home awaiting and freight to unload, and I saw neon lights shining down 8 Mile Road. The boys at the freight yard will just have to wait. They my woman won't mind if I'm a few minutes late. But I was dancing with a woman to an old Merle Haggard song, and we wound up in a motel down on 8 Mile Road.
Like with any greens you get out of the yard, you're going to need to wash them really good. And then, since most of these are pretty young, all we need to do is cut the stems off of the base of them. But some of the bigger leaves, you cut the stems out of the middle. Then just put it in a saltwater bath and let it soak for a little bit. And all the salt you need for cooking is going to come off of that saltwater bath after we drain it.
I saw neon lights shining and calling to me, inviting me to places where I shouldn't ought to be. I had a woman home waiting and freight to unload, but I heard temptation call my name from 8 Mile Road. Next afternoon, I hit the dock in OC, and the boss man was stomping round, cussing at me. I knew the same thing was waiting when I pulled up at home. I just couldn't skip the exit down on 8 Mile Road. I saw neon lights shining and calling to me, inviting me to places where I shouldn't ought to be. The boss man said I was fired, no one's waiting at home, 'cause I gave in to temptation down on 8 Mile Road. Well, me and this old Jimmy will have to make it on our own, 'cause it just ain't right for a man like me to leave a woman at home. When the highway gets lonesome and the devil starts to show, every town has its own name for 8 Mile Road.
The rest of it's pretty simple. All we're going to do is brown an onion, add a couple of tomatoes, little Roma tomatoes is what I'm using here, and later, just before it's done, put in some black pepper and maybe a healthy pinch of sugar to cut some of the bite from the tomatoes and the greens. And that's all there is to it. Just cook it till it's tender and ready to go. My sister used to say that people in the South can turn a perfectly healthy vegetable into a very, very unhealthy entree just by adding pork products. Well, in this case, I'm going to do that to the black-eyed peas by starting off with a couple of links of andouille sausage. It is very, very tasty stuff. If you've not had it, I highly recommend it. The next thing we're going to add in is about a half of an onion chopped up, 2 jalapeno peppers. We're not going to use too much of the seeds and pith from it because we don't want them to be too hot. And that's pretty much it. You have a little seasoning mix. It's going to be salt and pepper and some black pepper and cayenne pepper and some fresh thyme. And beyond that, we're just going to cook it till the peas are ready and then add the cornbread.
He's climbed the corporate ladder about as high as he can go, and his struggles there are over, but not so much at home. His sweet young wife is older now, and a woman took her place, but those warm blue eyes are cold now, and sadness lines her face. Last night he touched her shoulder, and she flinched and turned away. If he asked her, she'd deny it. He'd never ask her anyway. Maybe he could have listened to her more. Maybe he could have helped out more at home. Maybe he could have said, I love you more. Maybe there's not a thing he could have done. Sometimes he wishes she'd try harder. Sometimes he just wishes she'd try it all. Sometimes he wishes he could leave her, but he knows he's bound to love her through it all. And he watches his wife sleeping, soft moonlight on her skin, and he feels that lonesome hunger building once again. He knows there can never be anybody new. He only wants this woman, and for her to love him too.
Just going to take 15-20 minutes for the peas to get tender and ready to go. So while that's going on, we'll go ahead and finish up with the greens. The onions are ready, so now we'll add the tomatoes, and then we've drained the salt water out of the greens, and they'll be ready to go on next.
So he takes her in his arms, quietly holds her tight, and for the first time in a long time, the teardrops fill his eyes. A single teardrop cools her cheek, but warms her through and through. And she holds him even tighter, just like she used to do. Maybe he could have listened to her more. Maybe he could have helped out more at home. Maybe she could have said, I love you more. Maybe there's not a thing they could have done. Now their love has lifted them together. This time they've listened to it call. And maybe they're not done with all the hard times, but now they know they'll make it through them all.
If you watched my squirrel bourguignon video, actually, you know, if you didn't watch, you should be ashamed of yourself. Boy, that was a good one. Anyway, if you watched that video, you saw one of the things I did is I cooked cornbread on top of the squirrel stew. And I'm going to do the same thing here with the black-eyed peas. Now, the box mix calls for 1/3 cup of milk and an egg. I don't keep milk around, so I just put in 2 eggs, and it makes it, I think, actually probably a little bit fluffier cornbread. I'm also going to mix in a jalapeno that I diced up without the seeds. I don't want it hot. I just want to have that good pepper taste to it. And then when the black-eyed peas are just about soft and ready to go, we'll spoon the cornbread mix on top of it and cover it, put it on low heat, and let it go for about another 15 minutes. And all you gotta do is just kind of push on the top of the cornbread after 15 minutes or so, and if it's all firmed up, you know it's cooked, because instead of cooking like from the outside in like it does in the oven, it's going to cook from the bottom up. So by the time that the top is firm, you know you're done.
In his 20s, 'cause he smoked a little weed. Now it's almost legal, everybody's hooked on tweak. It's time to leave the office, and he'd like a good cigar. His wife would give him holy hell if he stunk up the car. He'll go out on a Saturday, chase a ball around the course, a buck a hole to make it real, a poor man's senior tour. They'll end up at the 19th hole and have a beer or two, then hustle home to mama. They all have honeydews. He's a reconstructed rebel with no rabble left to rouse. Folks that knew him way back when wouldn't recognize him now. He ain't played Molly Hatchet since his porn stash came down. There's no party in the back, it's business all around. He spent his off time working on a 64 GTO. He can't believe he ever let it go. Someday he'll have one like it, but the baby needs new shoes. What's a reconstructed rebel supposed to do? He's a reconstructed rebel with no rabble left to rouse. Folks that knew him way back when wouldn't recognize him now. He ain't played Molly Hatchet since his porn stash came down. There's no party in the back, it's business all around. They told him in his hell-ass days that he wasn't living right. A man was never built to be alone. Well, these days in the evening, he almost half believes it. What the hell, he'll drink his beer and head on home. He's a reconstructed rebel with no rabble left to rouse. Folks that knew him way back when wouldn't recognize him now. He ain't played Molly Hatchet since his porn stash came down. There's no party in the back, it's business all around.
You know, folks, New Year's is a great time for self-reflection. And I know a lot of y'all do New Year's resolutions for a couple of weeks and then wonder why they didn't work. If you ask me, which you didn't, it's probably because they're kind of shallow and surface things. Oh, I'm going to lose a few pounds. I'm going to quit smoking crack. I'm going to stop accepting Facebook friend requests from 22-year-old bikini models who tell me they're mesmerized by my profile pic and intrigued by my deep yet witty posts. The reason they failed is that they don't rise from serious self-reflection. The other morning, I was self-reflecting in my safe space, and I came to a realization. No. It was more of an epiphany. Now, I know y'all have all heard about the old man who went to the doctor and told him he was having bathroom problems. The doctor asked him about peeing in the morning. The man said, oh, every morning at 7, just like clockwork. Doc said, how about pooping? The old man said, every morning, 7:30, just like clockwork. Doc said, well, what's the problem? The man said, I don't wake up till 8. Well, like him, I was enjoying my morning constipational. And like I said, I had a painful moment of self-reflection. Yeah, I realized at that moment in time that my poop stinks. You see, all my life, I'd heard people say things like, he's just one of those people whose poop don't stink, bless his heart. I started to believe him, and even at times told my kids that if they pulled my finger, it would smell like magnolia blossoms. I know now that none of that is true. I want to apologize to anyone who ever went into the bathroom after me, especially the morning after red beans and rice or black-eyed peas and cornbread night. Even more, I want to apologize to anyone who ever decided not to stop and sniff a strange flower because they were afraid that it might be a magnolia blossom.